Before we get to the interview, everybody, I just want to let you know I'm Dave Bondy, independent journalist. Please help support my independent journalism and click the link down below to join my Substack or my locals community. It's only $5 a month. You can quit at any time. I left the mainstream media in order to keep it real. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You are from where? You don't have to go into whatever detail you don't want to. But
yeah, of course.
Northern,
so just a quick
Northern
rough
Michigan?
draft. In Harrison, Michigan right now, right? Clare County, third poorest county in the state of Michigan. If you didn't know that, it's very bad. In the city that I live in is actually the poorest town or city in the third poorest county. So it's bad. There's only 2 grocery stores in the town. And I just a moment ago, you said, are any of you like Uber drivers or Door Dashers?
Yeah.
There is no such thing as those here. No Instacart, no DoorDash, no Uber, no cab service. There's not even a taxi service.
So if someone doesn't have a car, they're walking.
The other day, I locked myself out of my house. I locked my keys in my house, which were to unlock my house. I don't have a spare set. I was running late to work. I was going to be. So I'm thinking, okay, call a cab. The closest cab company is Houghton Lake, and it was like a 3-hour wait. The second closest cab company was Mount Pleasant, and they wanted $130. And I'm like, sitting in my brain thinking like, okay, how does someone get from point A to point B in Harrison if they don't have a cab company? It's the transit. Well, I call the transit, right? It's the county's transit. Yeah. That's a 4-hour wait. They only pick up at certain locations on certain times. And yes. So it's bad. It's very bad. Back to touching on the groceries. So you said somebody commented that they spent $35 for hamburgers, right?
Yeah, so, and like just for a hamburger dinner, buns, hot dog, or hamburger, $30 for just like one.
They're not wrong. So what I've learned is this town, especially a lot of people here, like we talked about earlier, are veterans or are disabled. A lot. This is like a retirement area. Like they go here to get away from the cities and kind of just be forgot about. And which is what happens. These people get put in these positions where they're spending $6.99 for a block of like good cheese at one store or $7.99 or $6.99 at the other. So there's no way for them there is no comparative. If you go to Walmart, the same block of cheese is only $3.99. But here, since there's only 2 grocery stores, they've monopolized. And it's just made it very difficult to see, to be a part of this, to go into a grocery store every day. And like beef shepherd's pie is supposed to be a poor man's meal. It's my favorite meal. It cost me, and down to the T, I can remember this perfectly. Jenny's turkey, they only have 2 ground turkeys. One of them's 82% or 83, and the other one's 93, and it's that Jenny-O's. You know what company I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, so that's one. It's $5.99. If you want to buy now, this cheese in the United States, cheese can only be 49% real cheese or whatever. Yes. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so the bioengineered foods. If you want to eat real food, you have to spend more money.
Oh yeah, because it's not healthier. More and more people are getting fatter and unhealthier, and it's not
crazy.
Someone just asked a question in the chat. I was going to talk about it, but I'd ask you now. They said, how many disabled or people are homeless because of high rent? We were talking about that before we went on. What is it like to try to find a place, either an apartment or, God forbid, a house? I mean, it's pretty darn hard, isn't it?
Well, this is what I learnd. So like that, I just told you, I spent a year and a half almost homeless. I had to drive to Arizona to go stay at my mom's house because I was sleeping in Super 8s, which is, if you have a dog, it's a $125 a day. I blew through $35,000 in less than a year. I'm not even being homeless. It was
homeless.
Insane.
You didn't have an address. You were going from like motels,
buddies' houses that would let me stay there. There was a nice lady, and if anybody ever needs medical supplies, till the day I die, we'll tell people about this woman's business. It's in Roseville, Michigan. I can't think of the name. It's like American Medical Supplies. She sells medical supplies, right? And she had a building above her business that wasn't being used. She let me stay there for a month or so, and just things like that. So people were providing, God was providing. There was ways that I was able to be sustainable, but anybody that isn't strong-minded, there's no reason. It was just, there was nothing to keep me going. It was either give up my dog, which that's my family. I'm not going to do that, because aggressive breed dog, you can't take aggressive breed dog into a situation where they have a list of 100 people looking for housing, and they see that there's 99 others that don't have a dog. I can't even blame them. I can't even be upset with them, but It was impossible.
So some people could look at you and say, or, I could say the economy's not doing great, and there's always been people who aren't doing well, but are you seeing that it's worse now than it has been over the last
Ever in
10?
my life.
And okay, because that's, people will counter me or counter you and say, oh, there's always people who are suffering, but I'm hearing now that there's people who are maybe even not homeless, but people who are living not even paycheck to paycheck. But are you seeing it worse now than you ever have in your life?
So this is the best example I have for it. When my rich friends, like I told you, I had 29 friends in the NFL. When they're calling me and they're asking me for some ways to start to make some money, like, hey, what do you think are some good ideas we could do with property development to try to make some money? It tells me that the rich are starting to be affected by it, So it's like, that's alarming when I have my wealthy friends that I've told you I played high stakes poker with, and they're all like not going on cruises no more, or, not living their normal lives. It's the economy. It's got to be.
And you're seeing this as you're 30 years old?
Yep, 30.
As in your 30 years,
yeah,
since you've been an adult, some of the worst financial times, because you get around, you see what's going on around you.
I've been around.
Yeah. So it's pretty. This isn't an exception. This is bad. It is bad.
Oh, this is the worst. I'm like I said, I'm young. 30 years is not old, but I've been on my own since I was 15, and so that means bouncing multiple homes, multiple families, multiple different. Like I've lived with rich people. I lived with poor people. I've lived with celebrities. I've lived with the worst of the worst. So
yeah.
It's interesting to see that. But before I forget this, I wanted to touch back on this about this area specifically.
Yeah.
Harrison is, when it was made, it was a logging town, right? So they used the wood here to build the city of Chicago. How long ago was Chicago built?
Was it a long time ago?
Long time ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So what is here in this town then sustaining it? Like I shared with you,
there's a lot of towns just like that.
State funding, man. They put it on state funding. They say, hey, if you get on state funding, you'll be okay. But I'm not okay. I'm a prideful person, and it took everything I had to not want to go get on state funding, but I had to. It was like I was literally like not starving, but I was eating PB&Js every day. And I was like, finally, I was like, okay, you got to swallow your pill of pride, get on the state funding. They immediately gave it to me the same day. I'm talking like I got a card printed that day. It was $210. It's what I get per month now. And like I was sharing with you, if you do the math on it, $210 divided by 30 days comes out to $7 a day.
And so your question, that's not the answer to just society shouldn't be having to rely on the government.
Absolutely not. Not even only that, but even if I was to be relying on the government, let's say that I am, that I've fallen on hard times, or like I needed the bridge card, right?
Yeah.
$7 a day, that's dude, a gallon of milk, of good milk. I like here, I'll grab the milk that I read. This milk, right?
Yeah.
It's a decent milk. It's called Simply Organic. It's like the big brand that they sell there or whatever.
Okay.
That's $6.99, and what's that gonna last me? 3 days? It's not enough money. It's just not. So with inflation rising on grocery prices, you would think that they would put more money on a bridge card, but they don't.
And the thing is that people who really need it, because there's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of scammers
that need it.
Yeah, and there's people who aren't, or people who, there's a lot of ways.
I have
during COVID, I think
friends, they don't need it, and they're on it.
What needs to? Is it a political thing, or what's going on in this country that's making things worse? What is it?
So this is what a lot of, like I was telling you, it's a veterans town, right? So a lot of these old school veterans live here. I'm talking, these guys served Desert Storm, and like, dude, the guy the other day, it cracked me up. He told me about a mental health day. His name was Jenkins, and there was a lady in front of him. She had blue hair, and this is not politically involved at all. But she had blue hair, and she's like, oh, I'm so glad that I can call my boss and take a mental health day when I need to. And she's like, yeah, because I needed a day today. And so she's like, I'm going about her day. And Jenkins walks up, and he throws his tobacco down. And mind you, this man is like poor. He says, so let me tell you about my mental health day. I was crawling on my belly in Nam. He says, and I was sitting there. He said, I slammed my face back into the mud and said, I'm not going to say it, but he says, fuck, I wish I was in Detroit, Michigan running a press right now. He says, that was my mental health day. And oh my gosh, the look on that woman's face, because she was like, wow, the drastic mental health day difference. So it's like these people here are like that rough. You have to be a rough, gritty, tough kind of a breed to live in this town, because you're so poor, because the groceries are so expensive, because there isn't anything to do. It's just like I'd say outdoorsman town, or a retiree town. Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
the problem with it though, is half these people don't have vehicles. So now that they're screwed on groceries because they have to go just to these two stores, they can't go to Midland to Costco. They can't go to Walmart in Mount Pleasant. They don't have vehicles. And if they did, they don't have the $20 to pay someone for gas.
So I guess I'll go a little political, but what happens? The people who are suffering, you turn on the news, if you're able to see the news anywhere, and you see, the United States gives this country $1 billion, that country $1 billion. Does that upset people? I mean, like, we need to take care of our own country first, but I don't know if that's to go there or not. But
I'll repeat exactly what someone said to me the other day in the store. He learned about it was a $200 million budget cut for the army or something.
yeah.
Or I don't know, whatever the cut was. He came into my store. He says, no, he says, there's a group of us. And there is a group of these people up here that live up here, separated, but all together in the same area. That when stuff hits the fan, they said word for word, this is what he said. He said, I'm going down to the local grocery store. I'm taking my 9 and I'm taking what's mine. That's exactly what he said, word for word. And that's not the first time I've heard someone talk around.
So people are pretty upset. Like, I've
They're
heard,
getting to the point. Yeah.
like, we've, like, so far I think we've given $2 billion to Ukraine, and they're obviously having a lot of issues, but it sounds like our country we're having lots of issues.
Dude, the most. It's so when you see veterans that come into the store like that, and they can't provide for themselves, and they went and served a war for us, like fought in Desert Storm and literally put their lives on the line for us to be able to do this, to have this luxury of a life. It blows my mind when they reach into that penny tray and grab out, it hurts. It
Yeah,
makes me want to cry.
it said they risk their life, and then someone just mentioned in the chat, and I know everyone, America is a place for everybody, but when you get, and not to go political, when you get someone entering the country illegally and they're given credit cards and money and so forth, the priority, and I guess it's my opinion, the priority should be, especially the veterans. My God, they are the reasons why we are the United States.
So to touch on illegals entering, I lived in Arizona. That's where I grew up. My dad did water wells. I got to see a lot of why and what. So these people learn to live in a third world country, right?
Yeah.
Where they don't have a septic system. They don't have proper infrastructure for waterways. They don't have certain things. So when these people would move here, and like, I'm not like, but they would live 20 people in a single wide house.
Wow.
Yes. And this is years ago when I was a little kid growing up, 14 years old, 13 years old, going to work with my dad. I'll never forget how mad my dad would get, because when their water would go out, do you think they stopped using the bathroom?
Oh, yeah.
They would go and dig holes out in the backyard. And my dad would get furious because he's like explaining how that will ruin the water aquifers under the ground. And he, he'd have to explain to these people, he would say it just like this: you're not in Mexico anymore. This is America. We have septic systems here. Like, like he would explain it to them why they can't be doing that, even if their water was out, even, and a lot of the times these families couldn't then afford to fix the well. So they would have to run a garden hose from the neighbor or something like that. So speaking on illegals, that whole thing, living out there, gave me a totally different view to it. So what happens also is, if an illegal crashes into you, and say you have just regular car insurance, not to where you get a paycheck if they crash into your stuff, just regular PL and PD or whatever. This person gets deported. No, they don't have to pay for your stuff. They leave, right? They're there, they're incarcerated and then taken back to the States. But now you're stuck with the bill. That happened exactly to my dad. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
The guy was an illegal immigrant, right? And he got taken back. We were in Phoenix. We got rear-ended bad and destroyed my dad's F-350 truck. It bent the frame. I'll never forget it. And my dad was upset because he wasn't getting anything from the insurance company because he owned this truck. It wasn't a full coverage, whatever. So he got nothing. And this person just didn't owed him, but wasn't a documented he didn't have to pay. So, and that's the thing. They can come here, commit a crime, go back there, like a murder. Let's say they come here, murder someone. They can go back to Mexico and then be released for $5,000.
So
the real thing.
What if, let's say, if you were president, what I don't know. Where do we start? Where can, like, small towns, Harris? I mean, it's very looking bleak, but
If
what are
I
some
were,
things you would do to change things if you were the president or all powerful?
I would try to get people to do more in-house home cooking. So or like growth, like grow your own gardens. We live in Michigan, man. You got a backyard. You could dig a little 12 by 12 garden. I would tell you, I would recommend that. I would recommend, being straightforward and honest with people. Say, hey, because of our like people in front of me, they have certain bioengineered food now. So my best advice for you would be to grow your own food and look at the seeds that you're buying. Also, make sure they're not some, a bioengineered seed. Make sure that you're, and then in that 3 months we got a summer, grow your food. My grandma, she's, bless her heart, she's gone now, but till this day, she lived through the Great Depression, and she used to tell me stories about it. She has, still to this day, in my grandma's house, she's gone, but there is canned food to this day.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's, like, people, we've been through something similar to this, but not this bad. And people will say that.
We have. And I remember as a kid, I lived in Wayne, Michigan, suburb of Detroit.
Oof.
My mom would go around picking up cans outside, and she had, decent saving. And why are you doing that? She goes, it's a waste. Someone throwing away, that's 10 cents. And
Yeah.
people don't think like that anymore.
No.
So I think our society maybe needs a kick in the pants, and the politicians need to reevaluate, because the president said the economy's getting better, things are going well, but everywhere I look, at least in Michigan, it doesn't seem that way.
Oh, it's not, dude. It's not. If you came up here for a day and just watched how, like, that, it's just come to the vape store for one day and watch how these people react and how poor they are. It's so sad, man. It's so sad. And the thing is like, yeah, they shouldn't be buying vapes if they're poor. They shouldn't be buying cigarettes if they're poor, but they're addicted. You're addicted to it. You can't break someone's habit. A lot of these people, this town's known for meth, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate, but if you go anywhere in Michigan and ask what, they'll tell you Harrison. And I've watched a gradual change over time where people are wanting to get sober. They want to get sober, but if you were to Google homeless shelter near me right now, there's not one. If you were to Google drug rehabilitation center near me, there's not one. There's no place for these people to go to get help.
What about mental health? There's probably not that much help either.
No, why would
No.
there?
No.
And so they used to have this thing that a guy did called the drunk bus years ago. And it was like a thing that he just like would go pick up people from, there's only a couple bars, he'd go pick people up so that they get DUIs, because the biggest business in this county is the courthouse. It's truth. And I'm sorry if someone from working in there is watching this, but that is the truth. And if you don't believe that, then name me a place in Clare County that employs more people.
Okay.
There isn't. It's the courthouse. So they stopped this drunk bus thing, though, because it was taking away DUIs. It was taking away revenue from the county, Transat, all that stuff. So they forced them to stop this drunk bus.
So when you hear President Biden or some lawmakers saying the economy's growing, what's your thoughts when you hear that?
What I mean, dude, it's the same way when you watch any of it. That I think that they just lie. They lie until they can get to the next step. Or like when this last election happened, my favorite thing is do you believe the election was stolen? And 90% of people say yes. I say, what makes you think that they can't steal it again or didn't steal the 10 before it? It's all a game. And when people wake up that we don't have to be a part of that game. We can grow our own food outside. We can become self-sustainable. You're taking away power. What is money, right? That's where food makes money. Healthcare makes money. All that stuff makes money. When you take that stuff away from them, you have no power.
So when they say the economy is doing better, it's not for you, but that's not just you. You're seeing it with your own eye. You're seeing it with your own eyes.
Everyone, every single person I know. Like literally, dude, my mom and my poor mom, because she's helping me, and like, because I can't pay rent. My rent's $1,000 a month. I only make $250 a week. That's on a 5-day-a-week job. Part-time, it's the only job I can get in this town. There is no places to work where you can go say, hey, fire your daughter and hire me. Like, it doesn't work. There is no places to create income in this town unless I want to drive to Midland or Mount Pleasant or what so forth. But I don't. I want to try to change this town, where I'm at. What can I do to make this place better? But what I think when the president says stuff like that, like the economy's doing good or whatever, I would say, like, just Go and ask your neighbor. Look around. Ask someone. Be like, hey, how are you doing financially? If they say good, ask them to borrow some money. You know, like ask them to borrow. You're doing good? Great. Give me a loan then, because I'm not. You know, there's.
I like that. That's a very good test of it. Of yeah, you're absolutely right.
And if
So
you don't want to borrow me money, then why are we borrowing other countries' money?
yeah, and I'm glad I wanted to have you on because I say what you're saying to people. They don't believe me, or I'm being political, and I'm like, no, I'm not being political. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. People are having tough times. It's
I was
just
gonna say it doesn't matter what you are. My daughter lives with a Democratic Party family right now, right? Full blown far left, and they're arguing. They're arguing within the home now. My daughter has filled me in. She says, I said, what do you mean? She says, I'm not gonna say their names, but
no.
so and so and so and so are arguing now about Trump and Biden. I said, really? I said, why? Well, so and so thinks that Biden has thrown not only our country into an economic crisis, but our world. Let's talk about another thing. Can I show a vape on here?
Yeah, this is a low. It's like a no censorship platform. It doesn't matter.
Cool. So these right here, I don't condone vaping. I hate it. I wish I could quit. I beg myself to quit. But those things, the batteries come from China. Want to know what's crazy? They're out of stock now. I cannot. And Breeze has been a big brand for a long time. They've been around for a minute now.
Really?
And you cannot get them in. And I'm learning it's not just our store, because I was thinking, maybe we're way in the north, and it's just no, the warehouse is out and you can't get them. So why does that have to do with maybe partially the shipping? Shipping things are starting to happen now. We're starting to see the repercussions of the 6 months, like, I don't know.
It's scary because we are reliant on them for a lot.
And that's what I think they want you to do. I think they're putting us into a place where we have to rely on the government for certain food and jobs, like the Hunger Games stuff. Like, you're in a district. Okay, if you're part of a this, you do this. And it's wild.
Well, one more thing, wrap up. How are you doing? I mean, what's your plan? Just you're kicking
What's my
every day,
game plan?
living every day as it is, or just
Do you want to tell you? I'll tell you my honest to God game plan.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, every day I open my Bible, and if I have a relationship with God, it doesn't matter what storm I go through. If I keep my eyes on Jesus, just like Peter did, I can walk on water. Second I take my eyes off Jesus, what happens? I'll drown.
My I tend to worry a lot about the future and the past, and my wife even talked to me, and I talked to someone who said, you know what, it's never guaranteed. Up in Alpena, I think it was in Alpena a couple days ago, there was a car that crossed the center line and hit someone, killed him head on. They didn't know that morning that they would die. So you have it right. Jesus, God is actually God's in control.
That's it, man. And so I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, look at the world, look at the way the thing's going. I'm like, well, I as much as I don't like Biden in office, I know that has to take place so that God's glory can be seen. Otherwise, we're taking away the glory of God. You have to allow things to happen. Things have to unfold, and it just does, man. And the more that I pay attention to the world and our economic state, sure, of course, economically I'm doing bad, but realistically, what do I need? I have a roof over my head. If I have food, I don't. We live in a luxury world where I'm always chasing what's the next new pair of shoes, what's the next fancy car. So what am I doing? I'm being thankful for what I have and being content in my season. Does that make sense?
I'm going to put what you just said right there out for everyone to see, because I think that is so important, because I know people who are millionaires, and you do too, and they are probably the most unhappiest people you know.
Oh man, I could tell you stories. Yeah, I know. It's crazy to think so just because I have a relationship with God doesn't mean my life has become any easier or things bad don't happen to me.
Yeah.
It means that during my storm, I have a sail. That's what it means. I have a safe ship out of my storm, and God will deliver me from poverty. I'm not like, sure, I might be in a poorest town or in the third poorest county in the poorest town in the state of Michigan, but there's honey in the rock.
And you're not giving up on that town, it sounds
Never.
like.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm here, because I used to tell myself I'll never move back here. It's a teenage wasteland. I'll never move back here. And God said, oh yes, you will. I bring you back for some, I'm a tell you. Now I'm on the phone with you, right? Dave Bondy, news anchor, right? Telling you how bad it is in Harrison, Michigan. I mean, it was built for being a logging town, and it still gets logged, but I mean, there's nothing here. So it'd be great if you had a rich business owner someday that was thinking about moving his business somewhere, come and put it in Harrison, Michigan. There's about 10 people a day that walk into my shop asking for a job.
Yeah, Michigan needs a lot of help because a lot of people are leaving Michigan. Why are they leaving Michigan? Why are so many people leaving Michigan?
Gretchen. Now why do I think the cost of living?
Is it the economic? Because it's a beautiful state. I mean, we have all
really
the
make money in the winter. How do you make money in the wintertime? If you're a blue collar laborman, how do you make money when it's snow? And even if you can, we had like a short winter, like for the plow truck guys, they didn't make no money this year. We had like 5 good snows they could have plowed. Other than that, they didn't make the money they usually do.
Yeah, I was just in Tennessee, and oh my God, they're building. There's everything going on. So, I lost. There you are. So yeah, that's not just wanting Michigan. It's tough, but you're not giving up on it.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. You got me?
I can't hear you.
Oh,
someone called me.
Oh, that's okay. I'm gonna let you go.